to go ahead and talk about shoulder pain. And that's something that I personally have dealt with over the years, and actually had to take a break from the harp because of it. And a lot of it was due to approaching the harp with a lot of tension and a little bit of bad posture. So I had to work through that a lot, and I have hopefully some good tips for you today that will help you with that if that's one of the things you're struggling with too. So number one, with shoulder pain, you really want to make sure, just like with lower back pain, that you're not taking the weight of this harp and resting it all on your shoulder. So really make sure that you're sitting up straight and that there's just it's just resting there, just for the sake more of security and a little bit of stability, not because for the harp's sake, just for our body's sake. So really make sure that you're not taking any of that weight. The second thing you really want to make sure is that you're not hiking up one shoulder higher than the other. A lot of times when we're thinking about bringing our hand to the harp, we hike up our shoulder thinking that's going to help us. It's not going to help us. So really make sure that you're keeping your shoulders down. And I check myself periodically and I roll them back and make sure they really are back and down where they should be, and then I come at the harp again. Every once in a while, just do that, check yourself, because if you find it here, then you roll it back, you're going to notice, oh whoa, I had to use a big motion to get my shoulder back. So obviously it was hiked up. And that can happen with this shoulder too. This one can hike up because you're going to try and bring it to these upper registers. So just watch out for the hiked up shoulder. If you're suffering from shoulder pain, or even if you're not suffering from shoulder pain, some of the things I found out were that you really need to make sure that you're doing some upper body exercises and that you're doing upper body stretching as well. When you play the harp, you're using a lot in your upper body. You're using your whole body, but there's a lot going on in your torso. Between your deltoids and your trapezius and all your other muscles, you're really getting a big workout, and you're going to fatigue very easily if you're not already previously strengthening and stretching those muscles to keep them loose and strong so that you're able to approach the harp properly. I know some people suffer from neck pain too, and some of this can be related to the shoulders. A lot of times when we're suffering from pain, it might not actually be from the location that you're feeling the pain. A lot of pain is referred pain. So you want to make sure that if you're having and suffering from neck pain, that you are doing everything in your shoulders that you should be doing first before you start thinking about your neck, because that actually might be the problem. So make sure your shoulders are back, rolled back. They're at the same height and level. You don't have one hiked up more than the other. And then you want to, after that, now check your neck. Make sure it's not leaning forward. Make sure it's not leaning back. And then the next thing you want to make sure is that it's not leaning this way. If harpists do anything, it's lean their head this way. And a lot of that has to do with, we think the body of the harp is in the way, or maybe it really is in the way. And if it really is in the way, that means we need to readjust our position, because it really shouldn't be. But if I'm too low at the harp, then yes, maybe I am going to be running into this, and I have to cock my head this way to get around it. But if I'm seated properly, my chin should be coming above the board of this harp, this downboard here, and it should be able to clear naturally, and it's not going to be hitting anything or need to get around anything. So make sure that you're not cocking your head just out of habit, that you need to see the strings. You don't need to see the strings. If you keep your head straight, you should be able to see them just fine. And then make sure you're not cocking it because you need to get around this. Because if you are, then check your position. You probably need to be seated a little higher at the harp. The next thing you might want to take a look at and check out on yourself and your harp is that you're not leaning forward with your neck. You really want to make sure that you're having a natural curve in your neck, in your spine, and not leaning forward or being too far back. And one way to do that is just rotate your neck around, lean from side to side, and back up straight again. They should be just a small natural curve. Some people have more than others, and some people have less than others. It's just, we're all unique. But there should be a natural curve in the upper part of your spine and your neck. The last thing we're going to talk about is hand and wrist pain. And a lot of harpists suffer from this. I have a little bit in the past, not as badly or as severely as many harpists out there, but I know enough and have experienced enough that I know it's a problem, and I've had students with this problem, that it needs to be addressed, and it's something that we should all be aware of. If you're having tension in your wrist or pain in your wrist, you want to be really careful with that, because that can turn into carpal tunnel or tendonitis, which are both not fun things to deal with. So when making sure that you have a good wrist position, because a good technique is going to encourage relaxation. So if your technique's good, it's only going to help you stay relaxed. Whereas if your technique is compromised, it might be contributing to some tension you're holding. So proper wrist technique. Make sure your wrist isn't popped out like this. It's going to be kind of tough to get your fingers at a good angle of the harp if you do that anyway. And then make sure it's not too in. You don't want too much of a right angle, you know. You want just a slight natural dip of the wrist. A lot of people too can start holding tension or feeling pain in the palm of their hand, as well as in their fingers. And a lot of that has to do with tension. There are a few ways we can hold tension in our hands. I know for me, when I struggled with tension in my hand, it was due to the fact, and this is when I was first starting the harp, that I thought playing loud or playing fast meant you had to tense up your hands. That's how you did it. That's how you played. Don't ask me why I thought that, but I did, and I started suffering some hand pain, and I was trying to figure out what it was, and then my teachers and some other people were able to help me figure out the source of that pain. So you really want to make sure when you are playing the harp that you're not thinking that to play fast or to play loud that you have to tense up your hand or your body. You really don't. In fact, it's the opposite. You can play faster and you can play louder when you're relaxed because you have more freedom. Or with hand tension, you want to make sure that you have a good position at the harp. Some people, you can be rotated a little bit too much this way. Your fingers pointed this way, like directly at myself. That's a little extreme. I think if you bring them just dipped the slightest bit more down, I think it can help just relieve a little bit more tension, and you're still getting at a really great, wonderful angle at the harp where you're going to get that clear, articulated sound. So try and, if you find yourself pointing exactly this way and you're feeling a lot of tension, just try a little bit. Don't point them directly down, but just a little bit more, slightly sideways and down. And then you also want to check and make sure that when you are doing that, sometimes we can hold tension because our thumb is too high. And yes, harpists are always being told by their teachers, thumbs up, thumbs up. And it is, and they're not just meaning good job. They're meaning fix your position. Because if your thumb's down, then it's just harder to play the harp that way, get at good angles of the strings and crossing over for scale patterns and such. So just make sure that your thumb isn't too high. If it's too high, you're creating a lot of tension in between this second finger, this index finger, and your thumb, because you're spreading this apart where it really doesn't need to be. You need a little bit of height, a little bit of natural height, just enough so when you pluck you have that motion to be able to get a good tone quality at the harp and be able to flip over that second knuckle. So not too high, where it's causing that extra tension. So if you're suffering from some hand pain, check out your thumb. Make sure it's not too high. If you have your thumb too high, you're creating a lot of tension, unnecessary tension in here, and you're just stretching it beyond it's really necessary. So make sure you still want your thumb high. It's very important. If any of you have ever taken harp lessons, I'm sure you've had your harp teacher tell you multiple times, numerous times, keep your thumbs up. And it is very important, but not too far up. You just need it enough that you're getting a nice C shape and you're able to flip over. So you want to watch out for that. And also, for those of you who are placing chords and arpeggios, it's really easy to have tension if you're not having them at all your fingers on the strings at a good level. If you have them staggered, that's compromising your tendons, and that can cause a lot of unnecessary tension. So you want to watch out for that you're keeping them on the same level as much as possible and your thumb the highest. And then you also want to make sure that your wrist Is it a natural dip? In that your fingers are relaxed. You don't want to grip the strings. It's just very, very relaxed. There is some tension, of course. You need some tension to get a sound out of the harp, but it's not unnecessary tension. If you place that chord and you're feeling like you're gripping the strings, slide up and down and relax. And then get ready to play.